Okay, right, let's start with the star card. The reason that I've started with the star card is because it follows the tower card. And the tower card is when everything else crumbles, we begin to rebuild a new world with knowledge that, you know, possibly we've not touched on before. It's hope, it's inspiration. And I think in today's world, this is probably the card that I would want to start with. As you can see here with this photo, the girl walking through what looks like a shanty town here with all the dirt and the water. She's all dressed in white and she just looks as if a ray of hope, a ray of sunshine coming through in a dark world. So that's why I wanted to start with these three cards, because I think it's quite apt at the moment. The mundane meaning for the star is basically faith in the future, renewal, illumination. Sometimes it can depict a special talent in some, and I often think the star card, being Uranus and Saturn, can indicate children or people that suffer from too much energy or vibration inside their bodies, but end up having those mindsets, or the way that they use their brains is different from everybody else, but they've got not access to different things, you know, perhaps things that we with our very slow moving brains can't quite access. So I'm thinking slightly autistic here, to be honest, and I'm thinking Elon Musk in some way, because Uranus can be quite alien-like energy, quite unusual but also quite advanced. Normally a guiding light, expansion of knowledge, astrological insight, and heaven on earth. And that's what I was saying with this card here, and why this type of energy is much needed at the moment. So with a star card with advice for, if this card came out in a reading, you're looking for advice for someone, it would be something like to develop a special talent or promise of good fortune, or something new coming towards them that gave them hope or inspiration in some way. As a person, it could indicate somebody who was like a guardian angel, or young woman from this picture here, you know, people that help astrologers, astronomers, ufologists. It's normally like a healing feeling. Things are going to get better. It's creative. It's like, because this pool here is like a pool of knowledge of unformed energy, which comes from the Fool right at the beginning, which because it's Uranus, it's the same energy, and that unformed energy is a vibrational, electrical, I don't know what it is, but that's where we get our information from. But it's unformed, but people with this type of energy, as I said, like, you know, I always relate this in my readings of the child. I don't know who it was. I've seen it on TV ages ago, who could look at the skyline of New York, I think, and then could just, for like 5 seconds, and then draw it all in detail. You know, how do you do that? You can't explain it, can you? It's this type of energy that child's got access to, and it almost comes in like a download. So that is, to me, is what this card relates. With Uranus and Saturn as well, there's a love for secrets and enigmas. Oftentimes you find Uranus very interested in Aquarius type people and this energy, because they've got access to this information in a way that they know there's something else going on. They're very good at looking behind systems, political systems, you know, things that we've set up and that don't work anymore. And so they're often into conspiracy theories because they're just waiting for a breakthrough in some way. Sometimes they can go a little bit too far along the track and starts, you know, and they can be quite pessimistic in some way, where you see holes in anything and everything. But to me, if I'm thinking of energy of the star card here, Russell Brand springs to mind, because he's trying to rock the structure that's already set in place in some way, which is why we follow the Tower card at the beginning. It's like everything falls to pieces, new hope is given. And I wonder whether that's what, you know, I think we know that's what he's trying to do now, and he's not very subtle about it, because things haven't worked. They've gone in a way that they've also been accepted because we haven't questioned, because everything's been quite subservient in lots of structures around the world. And this new energy is being humped through at the moment. And we're like, how are you going to deal with this? Because you don't want to stay in that tower moment for too long, and this energy needs to usher in. So that's what I would feel if I was trying to read the star card. It's hope, it's optimism, it's change, it's excitement, it's access to knowledge outside ourselves. It's clear and it's fresh. It's like a breath of fresh air that's much needed when everything's become staid and collapsed. It's like a conduit. This lady here is like, the pool is really important because she's like fishing for energy. Fishing for what I would say is universal subconsciousness in some way. And that often comes into play, and this is very Aquarius, and I suppose Saturn in some ways too, with crop circles. I mean, that is like a conspiracy. I don't know what it is. It's like energy that nobody quite understands how they got there, but we're all questioning it. And there's like very unusual videos on YouTube of, I would say, balls of light forming these crop circles, and it's suggested that it's us. We do that with our subconscious in some way. So that would, to me, would indicate crop circles. It's meditation. It's the suspended mind. It's a bit like the hangman in some way. It's the fact it accesses things by watching. And I know there's a famous astrologer called Maurice, not pronounced like that, but that's how I do it. Fernandez, and he always relates Aquarius to people who observe and watch and don't feel like they quite fit into life, and then they come out and then they develop their own way, because this energy is quite unique in some ways when you get Uranus there. Saturn this is how it interplays really, because Saturn sort of structures it. That's when they need to come out of society and structure their thoughts and their processes till they come back, and then they change structures. Yeah, they change structures in some way, as I was saying with possibly Russell Brand and his strong need to change structures at the moment, which is, I think, is probably much needed anyway. The film I'd probably relate to this is The Day That Stood Still with Keanu Reeves, where he comes down to earth and sees it from somebody else's perspective. As I said, like when Aquarius people pull themselves out of society and reform their ideas and structure them in a very Saturnian way, then come back in. So, and he's basically come back to say after the Tower card that you got it all wrong. You've got it all wrong. But then he starts having some empathy for humans, but he's like some alien or otherworldly thing. So that has this feeling about it as well. In everyday life events, it would be something like a spiritual retreat, or there was a man who I guess went through a Uranus transit. That reminds me of this, where he was a neurosurgeon and he went in, neurosurgeon? Maybe, I don't know. He was a doctor of some form or other. And then he went into a coma. I think it was meningitis. And he had all these visions of what I would say like life after death visions in some way. And he wrote a book in a way that he said it felt like electric. He couldn't stop writing. He was up all night. And I'm thinking that's Uranus. That is accessing this, this information. And it's quite heightened and it's quite high and it's quite energetic. And it's pulling that and it's forming it into something that can give to other people to get a different perspective on life, which after the Tower card, when things fall into pieces, you get a different idea. So that's probably the process I would be thinking of with this card here. Caroline Meese also said as well that she had a story and she didn't relate it to Aquarius, but this is what I mean when you start looking at things from a different way and you start thinking that's that energy, where a woman had broke her leg or broke some part of her body and was in hospital, and she had time to think, because I think her life before that was basically go to work, come home, go to work, come home. And she hadn't stopped to think of the part that she's actually playing in the world and where she wants to be, because she was so stuck in a routine and mundane. So that to me is again that breakthrough energy that comes through with insight with this card here. And 44 is a number I think of with regards to this, although it's got nothing to do with the number of the star card, which is 17. Because that's the builders. It starts building up information structures again after the Tower card. So I wonder, I don't know this, I wonder whether you often find people who have Aquarius energy have the number 44 related to them in some way. The reason I say that is that I once did a numerology for my family, but it was based on sound rather than based on the normal structure of how you do numerology. And my husband, my son, and my husband's father, all their names came to 44, but my husband and my my husband's father are architects. So that is actually physically related to building. And I know that seems stupid, but sometimes it can be obviously mundane, and sometimes it can be more subtle. Heaven knows what my son's going to do. So people with this type of energy, I guess, would have a very prominent Uranus. And Saturn is often misunderstood because Saturn actually structures things. But if you go through progressions in your chart and they hit off a Saturn, it's vibrational, it's your vagus nerve, you feel it, and it almost feels slightly uncontrollable in some way, and you'll be back into the doctors thinking there's something wrong with you. So it's not just Uranus that rules the sort of overexcited electrical energy, it's Saturn too. And people, I think, that portray this, Jim Carrey comes across as very Uranus. He's very interested in numbers. He's very interested in alternative ways of looking at the world, and his energy is heightened in his films. He very much plays Uranus characters in most of his films. Russell Brand, as I've said, Russell Crowe's interesting. He's got an Aquarius moon, very interested in UFOs as well. Madonna, in some way, she's got Aquarius rising, she said so herself, and that is her ability to come out of society, and she changes the way that she projects herself, what she did when she was younger. Keanu Reeves, as I've said earlier, I think he's got Uranus on his ascendant, as Kurt Cobain did. And this is electrical energy that's fast and quick. So you think Kurt Cobain, Hitler, both had that energy on their ascendant, and you can see when Hitler's talking that he almost embodies it's like too much. It's like too much energy. It's quite uncomfortable to watch, and they both their lives ended in the same very quick way. You often find people born with this energy come out fast. You know, Uranus energy they come out fast, born in 15 minutes. I've got your Aquarius rising. My mum said, you don't want to know the story. You don't want to know the story. But I was born in like 15 minutes, as was my husband, who's got Uranus on the ascendant, and my children as well. They've all got it on their descendant or ascendant. Mars and Uranus, they were all cesareans, pulled out really quick. So that's the kind of image you get of the star card. It rebuilds after structures have fallen to pieces. It's got the ability to download information and understand the world very quickly. It's electric, it's sharp, but it's also very clear. And in this card, there's hope and inspiration. It's like starting something fresh. Okay, I think that's it. I was going to try and think of somebody else with Uranus on the ascendant there. So I think that's what I would get for the star card here. But to me, it's like the light when everything else has gone out. It's like a little candle that you light and there's hope. There's, it's just a promise to me. So that's the card I've got there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get out the little book. I'm going to draw extremely quickly with big, disgusting chubby crayons so I can go through it quickly. If you've got your book, then you do it too, and that might help. So I'm going to disappear for a moment. Hold on. Hi, are you ready to colour in with me? Get your little crayons out. Right. I'm going to go through it bit by bit. I've scribbled some notes to the side of the page from things that I think, thought, found, and hopefully it will help you. Just get yourself a nice little crayon. Let me get these out of the way. I'm going to pick a brown, so I don't know. I mean, this isn't brown, but that's what I've got here. I would pick a grey if I'd had, but I'm going to start off with brown. So get your crayons out. If you colour in the mountain here, this has got something to do, because the mountains reach upwards, it's got something to do with perfection. It's got something to do with perfection of organic life. It's when we're trying to, as I said earlier with the builders, we're trying to reform things in a way that reaches upwards and is going more towards where we think we should be going. If you use a little brown here for the trees always, they normally have two meanings, I think. It's a lot to do with your spine, it's a lot to do with the way that your nerves reach out and basically make everything function in a proper way in your body. It also has got a lot to do with how we go through certain cycles in history, and we get times when we can actually progress higher and to being a little bit more than ourselves. When the energy is fed, I guess, into the system, I don't know this, it's just my thoughts, when we get access to it, which is now, which is why it's the age of Aquarius, which is the star card. If you get your little yellow crayon here, you can colour in your little ibis bird here. The ibis bird is probably, I guess, the Buddha, the Mercury, the higher self in some way. It's, to me, the HULUPPU tree is why I call the channel HULUPPU, because it's the same thing. It has the, is it Zuzu bird? It's the same thing. It's the Zuzu bird on top of the tree, where we feel that we should be going when we access our higher self in some way. And you have Lilith that lives in the HULUPPU tree, and she's more like driven by fear and obviously all those things that collapse with the Tower card. So those are those feelings there, and that gives you more a feeling of the star, I guess. These stars here, this one here, the 8-pointed star, let me just colour it in. 8 magic rays, which is Masonic symbolism. I'm enjoying this, Crane, it's like being back in school. It's a symbol of spirit. And then when you've got that, so you will find that, I think that's on the Fool's clothes as well. So the star, because they're both Uranus, and it's pure spirit from the Fool card here, and this is more how it's reformed after the Tower card. So there you are, colour that in. You've got lots of the stars here, which are 7, which basically are, I guess, your base metals, or your 7 planets here, and then your chakras as well. So I'm assuming that energy, I know it says the star comes through our sun in some way, and that's why the Egyptians used to worship the sun, which is probably some magnetic energy, and then we push that into our bodies and or pull it into our bodies in certain ways, and use the metals inside ourselves, minerals, and form our chakras, and that's how we basically get ourselves back to where we should be. So, and the lady here, what colour should we call her? She's pink, but I haven't got pink, so let's colour her in a bit Bart Simpson orange here. Is it green? So the reason this lady is nude is because she's supposed to represent truth. You know, a bit like the nude child on the Sun card, where it's open, it's truth, there's nothing hidden. If you notice, one foot is in the subconscious energy down here in the water, the other foot, and if you notice on the Temperance card as well, is very grounded. So it's accessing this information and bringing it into our lives in some way. And I'm making this up, I'm guessing this here. So this is your unconscious here. That's accessing the information that was already in the Fool card at the beginning, that we knew before we basically came here. And what we do is, it was supposed to be giving, the age of Aquarius is pouring out this information. We're beginning to learn things that we thought were stupid and silly beforehand, and things were structured in a way that kept us in the dark, but it trickles back into the pool and it all goes back. So it's like an eternal cycle, which again has got something to do with the HULUPPU tree, as in, you know, like the Kali Yuga cycles that you find in the Vedic astrology. So that's what I would get from that card. So I don't know if that helps. I would intermingle that with the books that you can find that are more cookbook, but that is what it means to me. So I hope that helps. What I will do now, I'm going to pull this away. I'm going to just pick a few cards out and how to read the energy if it came up in a spread. That might help you as well. I'm going to put away my chubby crayons and put them over there, and then do that. So let's just say you've got your star card there, and initially we sort of indicated that it had a lot to do with promise, new things being rebuilt, access to information, knowledge, excitement, Uranus, vibrational energy, you know, or Saturn going out, oh my God, let me get that straight, out of the world, structuring your information, coming back and delivering it in a way here and spreading it so that it helps other people get out of ruts or be able to see through false information possibly that we've been fed and we thought was absolutely fantastically correct. And at the end, you know, when things come to an end, we realise they're fantastically corrupt, which I think is what we're probably finding out now. So let's do one card. So hope, inspiration, promise, healing, with the confidence and victory and movement that feels okay. That to me would be in the process of moving forward with this energy, understanding it and putting it into action, to me in a way that feels good, in the way that you allow other people to feel good. Because that is, you know, it's movement, it's fire, and it's it's when somebody, it's a bit Leo fear, when somebody stands proud and they're proud of the information, what they know and how they're going to make that work in the outside world. You would want a pentacle card there for some confirmation that it actually does work. But this is the process of somebody standing up in front of a crowd. And as I said earlier with Russell Brand, you know, he's come from being a comedian to just be naughty, and now he's on YouTube, and whether you like him or not, he's, you know, some of his information is gives a different point of view, and that to me would be him in that process of it working for him and being an alternative view and an inside information to things that people haven't said 50 years ago, or they have, but it's not been as mainstream. So that to me is that type of feeling. We could add another card on here, and the Judgment card at the end is an interesting thing, because the Judgment card to me, if I was thinking here with the star being information and processes and that sort of bit we were talking about with Russell Brand here, but with the Judgment card here, it would be almost like ending, after the Tower card, ending and starting something fresh. So that is quite dramatic in some way. You've got two major arcana there which overpower the little pip card here. So you need to be looking at these two mainly. One's hope, inspiration, one's like ending a new beginning. So I'm not going to go there with that one, because that could be quite frightening in some way. But it's like when everything falls to pieces, we all have to start up afresh. That's what I would get there. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm just little bits I'm going to feed in each week to try and help you put the major arcana together with the little pip cards. So that's what I got for the star card. Love the star card. I can understand that, you know, I can understand how other people could feel that was inspirational or moving forward in some way, with access to knowledge, information that is innate in us all. But there's only certain times and certain people generally all the time, but now I think this information, we can all access it if we go inside ourselves and we pull out of life and we observe and we understand. You know, the way that our minds works are a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot more inspirational than we have been able to use in the past. Right, okay, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much. Bye.
I'm going to ask you a series of control questions. Are you currently in a seated position?
Yes.
Do you feel pain?
My body does.
Are you human?
My body is.
General Quinn needs to see you in the briefing room. He says it's urgent.
Are you aware of an impending attack on the planet Earth? I'll repeat the question.
Did you feel that? Feel what? You should let me.